What's up, everyone? Welcome back to A Line in the Stars. I'm Jordan, and we're back today with another episode of the 1701-D series from Fanhome, and a little bit of an update. When we got this channel restarted back in August, this model was at the center of it. Getting this parts work was the very first one that I experienced, and now I'm addicted. It has turned into me building models and turned into one of the best experiences of my life. And this model has a lot to do with it. Now, as I've gone along, my skills have developed, my taste for models has changed, and my expectations for quality have skyrocketed. And with this model, as I've gone along, there are several things that I've just kind of dismissed because I thought that this was just what it was, and this is what we're going to get. And I had been totally content to live with the model as it was because I was uncomfortable with modding it, and I just thought that it is what it was. It is what it is, they say, and I was like, okay, we're just going to have to deal with it. But there are several things that have been really annoying to me with this model. First up, the windows that stick out over the hull. As you can see here, we have a picture of the basically the Cobra head of the Enterprise, and you can see that the windows stick out slightly over the top of the hull. Now, I get it. It makes total sense, but really, Eaglemoss, before you went under, you could have actually machined that properly and designed a window that fit in those window recesses properly. They didn't. They stick up over it. I was like, I kind of like it for the textural or the surface component of it, whatever. In my mind, I was really just kind of like, that's kind of crappy. Now, I've heard of sanding the windows down. I know that there are some pieces of equipment out there that you can have created that help you sand the windows down, but I'm just not pleased with that overall look and was kind of like, I'm just going to have to deal with it. The next thing that bothered me was the nacelles. They don't look screen accurate, especially when powered down. Now, this effect would be very easy to replicate, and I've thought about it long before what we'll get into here in just a moment, but I've thought about it, and both the nacelles and the deflector is another issue where it just looks too toy-ish and it doesn't look screen accurate. When the nacelles and the deflectors are powered down, they have a copper look to them. The grills, it's supposed to imply that the grills, the grills and the deflector dish are only lit up from them being activated and the light from within. And in this model, it looks plastic. It looks fake when the model's not powered up. Now, this model is going to be on display. It's going to be on display in a prominent part of my house for a long period of time. This is a very expensive model and one that I want to be proud of the build. And I don't want some toy sitting in the middle of my living room. So that has bothered me. There are light bleed issues. Many, many light bleed issues. And you'll see a picture there of, we'll get to it here in a minute, but you'll see a picture here from myenterprised.com of an image of just what the light bleed could look like in just its stock configuration. It's been bothering me, and this is kind of what has been the impetus for what we're about to do. Another issue that is bothering me, and one that I didn't know until, and we'll get into why here in a moment, but the window pattern is not screen accurate. They use the window pattern based on the 6-footer, despite what they tell you in the model book in the very beginning, where they say they use the 4-footer's window pattern. That is not true. This window pattern is from the 6-footer, but this model is based off of the 4-footer. So the window patterns are inconsistent. I want a consistent and realistic window pattern, and we needed to fix that. And then finally, beyond some other small issues that we will address as we go along, there are these lights that blink. And it was at the very beginning, and I'll just go ahead and show you here. This is from the beginning of our last episode, where, we have the running lights basically here, or the navigation lights, and they're blinking. the Enterprise's lights didn't do that. That's not accurate. That's not correct. And it's something that just has bothered me. And once again, has been one of those things where, like, I don't know what I could possibly do to correct it. So we're just going to deal with it. So we're going to go ahead and talk about why. So, as you guys know, I've, Hobby Time modelers have asked me to join up with their streams and join up with the community over there. And it has been one of the great things that's happened to me in the last couple of years. And the community there, the way the guys all are really super supportive with each other and all that. Just the amount of knowledge and help that they're able to provide, and just the amount of skill in that group for modeling is just out of control. And so since joining up with that, I've had a chance to see, and if you guys aren't aware, you should be checking out mypartworks.com. And also like myenterprised.com, and on mypartworks.com, Todd Marble Phoenix. You should also check out his website. Check out the website, check out his page, and check out his individual sites for whatever parts work build you're doing if you haven't already. We were in a stream a couple weeks ago, and he brought his Enterprise out and showed the power-up sequence. And my mind was blown. It was simply blown. The level of detail that's in that model, he takes basically the frame of the Eaglemoss model and makes it his. Now, I am nowhere near his skill level, and maybe one day I might attempt it. But I took some inspiration from his model, and it got me thinking. Now, if you guys aren't aware, I've been streaming a lot lately, both with Hobby Time modelers and on my own. And in my very first Stockyard stream, and I'll go ahead and throw the link down below, in my very first stream, I went ahead and was disassembling the hull panel sections for the reason of basically just going through and disassembling any hull panel piece that hadn't received any light bleed work. I wanted to make sure that all of our backs of the windows were covered. I wanted to make sure I took the time to get everything right, reassemble everything properly. But then as I was going along, I was like, Todd was there. And I'm like, what about resin windows? And so he's like, well, yeah, you should definitely do resin windows. And of course he wants me to do resin windows because they're awesome. And it's a daunting process. And so the plan was to do some light bleed work. What happened is this. I have removed, if you guys, this shouldn't be a surprise for some of you if you watch the stream, but I have gone through and I have removed all of the windows from every one of our assembled hull pieces so far. I need to actually go through at the end of this. I'm going to separate out all of my escape pods as well. I want to do a proper job of putting them in and all that. But all of my LEDs have been removed. All of my windows have been removed. All of my reflectors have been removed. And my friends, the very first mod that we're going to introduce in this model is going to be the resin windows. It's something that is a daunting task. Basically, the process is we're going to take a small amount of UV resin. We're going to, first we're going to tape behind the window with some UV tape. And then we're going to take a drop of the UV resin and we're going to drop them in. And then basically we're going to pick out all the bubbles and then we're going to flash it a couple times with a UV light. We will get into that as we get into it. But I am not going to be practicing here on my main hull panel pieces. This model is going to kind of take a bit of a back seat for a little while. And back seat in such a way that we're not going to be really assembling anything as we go along right now. Basically, I want to start, and the idea was I was not far enough along in the model that we're disassembling all of the stage, like basically disassembling all of the hull panels from the top. If we were to have waited till the very end, it would have been stage 46, which is probably about, that's 20, so that's 5 months from now. So another 5 months from now, I could have made this same decision. I was contemplating just like waiting and building, but then it just didn't make any sense to me. I was only this many hull panels along, and I'm like, I can quickly remove all of this. And it took me 1-2 hour session to remove all of it, remove all the windows, take apart all the screws, get everything separated out nice and easy. And so we're going to be taking a back seat in such the stage that we're not going to be assembling our stages as we go along. By the time that I'm done with all of the mods, and we're going to talk about the plan here in a second, by the time I'm done doing all the mods to get caught up, I'm likely going to have 10 stages. I'm expecting it's going to take us about 2 months to get all modded up and reassembled. So let's go ahead and just talk about what the plan's going to be. We are going to start with the UV resin windows. To do so, however, in the next coming episodes, we'll talk about what's happening in the next episode. I got to wait for my kit, the UV resin kit, to arrive. I picked up the Solarez UV resin, and man, the shipping is like pretty far out. So it's a little frustrating, but I know that Solarez is pretty good. I've been looking at Mr. Resin as well. Definitely want to talk to the guys and see what they think, if it's just worth my time just to pick up the Mr. Resin and forget the Solarez, because the Solarez is going to take like 2 to 3 weeks to get here because it's on back order. So, but anyway, we're going to be doing our windows, but in order to practice, Ian, Pitstain Hobbies, I'll go ahead and throw his tag up here. You should definitely check out his builds in his channel. He is a very, very, very entertaining dude, and you would really love, if you watch my content, you'll definitely enjoy his content as well. But what Ian's going to do is he's going to be sending me some spare hull panel sections, because he's been the recipient of a couple of half-started models, basically, and he's got some panels that have actually had this work done on them that has failed, but it's going to be perfect for us to practice on. So that's where we're going to be starting. We're going to be practicing on our panels, getting our, basically just learning how to flash, because it's like a 1 second flash and then a 1 second flash, and then you got to let it go, and you got to make sure you're getting your bubbles picked out. And we're going to practice, and we're going to do a lot of practice, probably an entire episode's worth of practice, which for me is likely going to take place over the course of an entire week before I even attempt to try this with one of our hull panels. I do not want to mess up our model, and if I have the ability to use other hull panel sections that I know we're not going to need, that is going to be the ultimate way of doing that. So, I have purchased the UV stuff. I picked up the light. I picked up the glasses. I've picked up a bunch of the things. Just the whole kit takes a little while to arrive. We are going to resin all existing windows. And we will make this a part of our build every stage as we go along. This model is I'm going to be looking, just to be clear, I'm going to be looking at how we shoot doing this model, because I'll wind up with so many stages ahead. It's likely I could take a different approach to shooting this model, because literally for the last little while it's been pretty repetitious, where it's just been, okay, we're going to build this whole panel section, we're going to plug it on, and I'm going to take a little bit different of approach to it, especially with the modding. It's going to be instructional for you, instructional for me, and if you guys want to follow along at your own risk, by the way, I am taking a risk with this model, and Fanhome will not take care of me if I screw this up. So, I am taking a risk, but it's a worthwhile risk. But if you do want to follow along, this is going to be a great educational series for how to mod it. And I will be using myenterprised.com as my reference point. So, after we get all of our windows resined, we will be painting the back. There's going to be some windows where I'm going to put a little bit of color behind them just to offer a little bit of depth to the model itself. But then we're going to be painting all of our windows with a diffusing paint that are going to be lit. These LEDs are very bright, and we're going to want to diffuse down some of the light just to make sure that we're not like just going ham. Like, we shouldn't be like looking at the Griswold house while we're trying to do this. And with the resin windows, that is 100% going to happen. And then we're going to be blacking out the windows that are darkened. And we're going to be doing that in the exact window pattern that was set forth. Todd went through, and I'll go ahead and throw up a picture here. He took the time on every hull panel and basically took the time, and like, feel bad for him real quick, but he basically like through it, took the time to document, like watch every episode from season 4 on, basically, and was able to document the exact whole window pattern. And on this image, you can see it, and we have it here for the upper section, and then there's one for the engineering section, the lower saucer section. Like, it's pretty insane. So we're going to be following that pattern. Then after we get all of our panels taken care of, we're going to be going ahead and reassembling what we have built already into the model, and we're going to be putting everything together, starting with this one, which is the key piece. This is the very first piece that goes on, and we're going to be taking our time and doing a very slow job of making sure, like, I am not going to be showing you guys a lot of the struggle work of me getting cables through anymore. It's going to be a lot tighter, a lot focused. It's likely these episodes are going to be a little bit shorter in length, just because, once again, I want to make it educational and a little bit more entertaining to watch, because, you know, me trying to, like, with cables is not fun, and I feel like that's part of the reason why I had some, like, different hull panels that were sitting up and going. As we're reassembling, we're going to be adding light blocking, and we're going to be using the Uhu Petafix or similar sort of putties. I've got a couple different options, maybe black tack, I'm not quite sure, but we're going to be using some different putties to seal in. So say, for instance, when this whole panel section comes in, I believe it's going to be like one of these two kind of comes in right afterwards. Anyway, it could be a different one, but like as soon as we have a completed section where we have all 4 sides covered, then we are going to be going through, and I think actually it goes like that, maybe. Anyway, it's a puzzle that I don't know the pieces to. We're going to use the putty to seal up along and make sure that we're taking care of our light bleed, and that is also something that we're going to be employing for every single stage of this model going forward. We're going to catch up with stage 25, and by the time we catch up with stage 25, we're going to move on to the next phase of that. Like I said, we're going to let all the packs build up. It's going to be kind of fun to have a bunch of these laying around, waiting for me to build them. I think that's going to be a much more desirable place for me to be. You know, just the thought of like having like 10 stages of this around is like, oh, super nice. After we get caught up, we're going to start with modding the bridge. And the bridge mod is pretty simple. It's just going to be a navigation light and the bridge dome. Now, if the navigation light works on Todd's model because of the Arduino. I am not planning on employing one right now as of this moment, and by then I'll have a much better plan. Like, by the time we get, like, this is going to take about 2 months to get back to that point. By then I'll have a good plan and see if I'm actually capable of doing the full mod that Todd did. It's kind of the idea. I'm going to try to do as many of the things as possible, but his mod is insane, and I would require a lot of his help, and I'm not sure how much he's willing to do. Todd, if you're watching, let's talk. But in the short term, my plan really is to do a very light surface level mod of the model to where it gets to the point where I'm very happy with it. But starting with the bridge, it's likely we could just be lighting up the little bridge dome section. If there's a navigation light put in place, we'll figure out how to get that powered up. After that is done, we're going to disassemble the Cobra head, remove all of the windows, and then we're going to be removing the acrylic windows, the little plates basically that fit into the back. Now, for details on all of these mods, once again, check out My Enterprise D and the model remodel section of his website. I'm going to go ahead and throw that link down below. But for that, we're going to remove all the acrylic lights, and we're going to do a proper resin job with that. We are then, after the Cobra head is disassembled, as it is the first PCB that I have, we're going to be employing the no blink mod. It's going to be removing the blinking from the running lights or the navigation lights, whatever you want to call them. And it's going to be a simple act of doing some soldering across some terminals on the back of the PCB. Stuff that I do know how to do. I have all the equipment to do so. And once we get there, that's going to just eliminate the blinking, and then we will do that to the main PCB as well, and any other places where we need to in the future. After that, we're going to go ahead and reassemble the Cobra head and catch up with stage 25. Now, After we get up to stage 25, we are going to be basically resuming our build. When we resume our build, we're going to basically employ all of the tactics that we have started with, like since the beginning of the modded build. So we're going to be making sure that each hull panel section, I'm not going to have to do all of them perhaps in one day, but basically we're going to go ahead and do one window panel section, and it's likely that I will open up all of the packs for all of the stages that we have for that time, like all 4, for instance, take care of 4 window sets, and then we're going to do that as part of an episode, so on and so forth. But each time we install something, each time we put something in, we're going to take the time in the beginning to do light bleed. We're going to take the time to do the UV windows, and we're going to take the time to make sure that everything is routed and channeled nicely and perfectly, so that once this model is assembled, I never have to think about doing that crap again. And then basically, when it comes up, the last mod that I have a plan for, besides like the photon torpedo like launcher, the light that lights up is clear. It should be orange. I would also like the rear photon launcher to light up as well, which just means lighting up, like running an LED back and doing some cutting. All stuff. There are little minor mods that we can do along the way. But as the very last component of the main mod, is going to be the Bassi Deflector Dish. Now, Marvel Phoenix and John Bassi teamed up to create the Bassi Deflector Dish, and it's a mod that basically gives you this. And this is what can be considered probably the most screen-accurate representation of what the deflector dish would look like in real life. And the way it lights up, the way it glows, it is perfect. It's perfect. And the whole idea of it is that when it lights up with the nacelles, and when the nacelles light up, it's done in such a way that the color scheme changes from the copper to the blues and the reds that we're used to seeing. So that's going to be that plan. But we will only do that once we start getting to the deflector dish itself. And I'm not quite sure what stage that's going to be, but it's coming up here in the near future. So I'm going to go ahead and figure out how to get the Bassi deflector dish printed. There is a share use, or there is a open use file, I believe. I'm not quite sure what the terminology is for that. I will go ahead and throw that link down in the description below as well, if you're interested in doing the Bassi deflector dish. But basically, I can just have it sent off to a local 3D printer, and they will have it printed for me, and I will have it ready when that time comes. It should be relatively cheap. But first, for the next episode, I need to wait for all of my equipment to arrive, and I really kind of don't want to wait any longer. It's been a while since I built this model. I'm still sitting on 2 stages right now, which is super weird for me. Like, the last time I got a pack, I built it all in one day. This time I kind of built it, and then I've been like pausing and thinking about it, and I'm like, man, I really, really want to mod this model. So before we get started on doing all of our windows, the first thing we're going to be doing is taking care of the nacelles. Now, basically the nacelle mod is, like I said earlier, taking down the paint and reapplying it in a way that makes more sense. Very carefully getting the grills painted a copper color, removing the base blue, painting it from back behind. There's going to be a whole thing. We're going to be recoloring the EM, the EM field grill here. It's orange here. It's supposed to be yellow, the same yellow that we're going to be putting on the inside of the Bassi deflector dish. So we're going to be basically taping it and frosting the pieces. We're going to be frosting the Bussard collector. We're going to be going through and doing as much of the mod as possible. Now, I'm not going to be able to probably do the full mod. I am going to be talking to Todd about the mod. And basically seeing if it would be possible to do his nacelle lighting, because he uses a much stronger and brighter LED strip. Obviously, I won't be able to do the power up and power down sequence that he's going to be able to do, but I'm curious if there's something we can do with the base power. And so once again, I need to talk to Todd, figure out what we're going to do. But the first part of it, we're going to be taking the nacelle, removing the grills, to removing the Bussard, or taking the Bussard collector, and basically getting it all weathered up and ready. Well, not weathered up, but basically frosted up and put back into place. So that's going to be what's going to be happening next week. And then by the time that we finish with that episode, I should have all my UV stuff. And then we're going to be going in after that and showing the process of doing some resin UV windows. So I think that's what I got for you guys today. I know it's kind of a crazy little detour with this model, but once again, there's just been some things that I've not been really happy with during the course of this model, and I think with these mods, they're all achievable through my skill level. And once again, I encourage you to take a look at myenterprised.com. I encourage you to really, if you're doing any parts work out there, he doesn't have them all, but he's got a lot of them, and he does the best description of how to build the models, and it's absolutely fantastic. And his mod series on the Enterprise is absolutely entertaining. And I'll talk to him and see if it would be possible to even try to pull off what he's doing, because what he's doing is insanity. So I just want to say thank you. I know that there was a million things y'all could have done today, and you spent a couple minutes with me listening to me talk about a model that I've built and then take apart, which seems to be a theme these days, and we'll get into that a little bit more next week as we go along. And I just want to say thank you. If you guys have any questions, comments, tips, tricks, please leave them down below. It's going to be most important ever for that as we start to mod this model. If you'd like to support the channel, please like and subscribe. If you want to join the crew, check us out on Discord. We're going to be at aligning_the_stars on Discord. Join the crew, please. We'd love to have the bigger community going on there. Getting used to posting things in there. It's a great place. And otherwise, I just want to say thank you. I hope you all have a wonderful day in this beautiful world where you happen to be. And just remember to always live long and prosper.